and welcome back to the week of Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win, we start with from Fabian Perez, who asked the question, who would I fight? Delsin Rowe from the Infamous series. I believe it's Infamous 2? Was this Infamous 2 or Infamous 1? Infamous Second Son from one of the sequel games. Versus All for One from My Hero Academia. Now, when I saw this, I'm like, why did these two go together? And then I read them, like, okay, they can steal others' abilities. Delsin Rowe, I didn't really play. I played, like, the demos when they were at Best Buy. Remember that, kids? Remember when demos used to be at Best Buy and you could just keep playing it? I was beating an entire game that was available at Best Buy just because I could. Basically, he was the central protagonist after living what could be considered a normal life as a graffiti artist and a local delinquent of the Akomish Reserve. He discovered that he is a conduit after grabbing a Department of Unified Protection's captain named Hank in order to save his brother. Whatever a conduit is. Excuse me. So, one second. Conduits or bioterrorists are a subspecies of humans who possess superhuman ability. They're mutants. Who possess the conduit gene, the X gene. They're freaking mutants, okay? It's like, we couldn't actually make an X-Men game, but we made an X-Men game. His abilities include power absorption. He's able to steal the abilities of other conduits. However, All for One's not a conduit, so this ability does not apply. Likewise, I'll get it out of the way right now, All for One's ability to steal quirks does not apply because these aren't quirks. Telepathic perception. He doesn't want, along with his ability to take the powers of others, also has the ability through touch to look at another person's past and emotions they experience to rapidly gain information on their lives. Although it's not confirmed, it appears this power can't be used on non-conduits. So this is not a useful power at all. Beyond that, though, he has smoke manipulation. His initial powers seem to be based on smoke and embers, having taken from Hank. The conduit helped survive. He suddenly gained the capacity to shoot smoke out of his hands, or even turn it into smoke and travel quickly around the city through the use of ducks. He can deploy smoke grenades, which after explosion cover affected enemies in smoke and incapacitate them. He can use the chain on his arm as a whip to seemingly imbue it with burning ash, similar to how the amp was wrought in Cole's electricity. Additionally, he can make use of a smoke dash ability for heightened motion and produce lateral propulsion for a short while via smoke thrusters. His smoke dash can also be used offensively as he dashes through an enemy and rematerializes behind them, choke slamming him into the ground. He also replenishes his power by absorbing smoke from chimneys, cars, DUPT or gas canisters, and he uses a special smoke karma bomb called orbital drop, or Delsin dematerializes into 3 balls of smoke, which propel upward upon reaching a specific height. He rematerializes and rapidly falls down, exploding into smoke and embers. So it's mostly smoke and embers he's manipulating, not true flame, but smoke and embers. He also has neon manipulation, which he absorbed from Abigail Walker, the ability to control neon. With it, he is shown the power similar to his smoke dispersal ability, yet instead dissolves and reforms from gaseous energies based semblances. He can discharge neon stream lasers from his hands, which also blow up upon contact to deal more damage to the enemy than the smoke projectile, as well as stimulate a light dash, which he used to dissolve into a neon itself, enables him and brief after images of him to sprint upwards around walls and literally run. Sorry, this is worded slightly off. Delsin's chain can also be covered in neon and made rigid, allowing it to be used like a sword in a sword-like fashion. He can also use neon to charge it directly into his enemies, knocking them over. Then you have video manipulation, ability of video. He can drain the power of television monitors to computer screens on satellite dishes. When using video, he can shoot out a stream of pixelized projectiles to rapid fire motions. Interesting. Concrete manipulation. That kind of is like kind of self-explanatory. That's basically something akin to what you would see from the My Hero character who manipulates cement. What also makes concrete separate from itself is others' power is that while using it, Delsin automatically takes less damage from fire. He also has superhuman strength, agility, stamina, durability, accelerated healing factor, and decent parkour skills and spray paint skills. However, he does have a couple key weaknesses. Firstly, when he acquires a new power, he is unable to switch to his other powers until he develops his proficiency with said new power. Doesn't matter here. After absorbing an ability from another conduit, temporarily is knocked unconscious due to the amount of stress the stream puts on him. This is very similar to when Cole absorbs Blast Core's Infamous 2. Delsin cannot switch powers on a whim. He must switch powers by absorbing energy from a different power source. For example, if Delsin currently has smoke but wants to use neon, he must absorb neon to replace it. For the same reason, he cannot use multiple powers at once. Ooh, that's not good. Like Cole, he cannot swim, but apparently only because he does not know how to, rather than having to constantly avoid it like the former. All for One has been around for God knows how long. Using the Life Force quirk, he has extended his life by a long time. That doubles your lifespan. Add on the extra amount of quirks he has, he's kind of a not a god, but he likens himself to, like, I think a demon king. He's egomaniacal. He's power hungry. He's sinister. He is highly intelligent. Having massive backup plans to boot. This is basically true evil in My Hero Academia, like as close as you get. Even Shigaraki was molded to some degree to be as evil as he was. All for One just kind of was. He's just riding a power high. All for One is extremely strong, being able to easily trade blows with All Might, whose physical strength was thought to be unrivaled. In his zenith, he was effortlessly overpowered. In his zenith, he was able to effortlessly overpower pre-Nomu Hood, though the latter was weakened from his battle from battling O'Clock and his allies. This must be from Vigilantes, I'm guessing. No, Hood was. I believe Hood was the one that Endeavor fought, if I'm not mistaken. 1 second here. Personality. That's that. Oh god. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, this is the one that Endeavor fought and ultimately beat. Then he has enhanced speed as well. But really, what All for One's most dangerous ability really is actually it's kind of his mind, because he's had how many backup quirks, how many backup plans. It's his ability of All for One to steal, store, and give quirks. Just willingly. The difference between him and someone like Delsin is the fact that he can manipulate any of his quirks at once. All of his known quirks at this time that he still has, even though his main body has a copy of All for One, not the real All for One, is Search, which allows a person to observe, monitor to 100 people at a time, including their location and weak points. In addition to Infrared, this quirk also makes up for All for One's blindness. That is a thing. And All for One we know at the moment, except for, not at the moment, but throughout most of the series, is blind. He has an infrared ability that lets him see body and search. Warping. He can produce a black liquid that acts as a portal similar in nature to Kurogiri's Warp Gate, which is the teleportation ability. It appears he can use this quirk on a large scale as he produces multiple black liquid portals to transport dozens of Nomus. This quirk, however, has many limitations. It's not a coordinated-based quirk, and it can only warp things to and from his location. And it only works if it's used on someone with whom he has a close relationship with. So that's the most effective quirk to use. However, Air Cannon, on the other hand, he releases giant shockwaves from his arm. This quirk is further strengthened by his combined usage of his spring-like limbs and several other power-up quirks. This quirk was strong enough to literally start cratering the freaking battlefield when he and All Might fought. Hell, it was able to offset freaking Endeavor's fire, which can literally incinerate people down to nothing. Oh god, sorry. Dinner coming back up. I'm good. Spring-like limbs. It's a quirk that basically lets him coil his muscles in order to enhance his physical strength. He can also use this to augment other quirks like Air Cannon. Rivet Stab. This is the one that a lot of people peg. I always thought this was actually part of One for All. All for One, but it's not. Basically, he's able to turn his fingers into black tendrils that have red, prominent crack-like lines that extend from his fingers, although they can be used to emerge from other parts of his body, such as his spine. These appendages can easily pierce bodies, however, the user may choose whether to wound the target or not, as seen when All for One used it to force quirk activation, which is another thing. You can force people's quirks to activate. Wouldn't help here, but still he has that. Impact recoil enables him to completely reflect the impact of an attack back at the attacker. That's how he caused All Might to break his arm in their final fight. Multiplier. This quirk seemingly multiplies the number of All for One's arms. Okay. Hypertrophy. Hypertrophy. Seemingly enlarges his arm. It's an enlargement quirk. Rivet. Generates rivet-like growths on One for All's arm. Spear-like bones. Generates drill-like bones on his arm. Kinetic booster. It's not an unnamed quirk, but seemingly increases the amount of kinetic energy All for One creates and releases. And All for One has 4 copies of this quirk, apparently. And this might be because of their quirk recreation thing that they did with the Doctor. She's got multiple strength enhancer quirks, infrared life force, as I said, radio waves, able to disrupt communications with radio waves, hard flame fan, which allows him to generate a wall of flames to act as defense. Okay. And an unnamed telekinesis quirk, which allows him to pretty much float. An unnamed levitation quirk, and he's able to levitate medical devices. An unnamed lie detector quirk, a unnamed razor blade quirk, an unnamed ooze quirk allows him to generate muck-like ooze substance that covers and dissolves an area. So basically, he's got an enhanced version of Mina's ability. An unnamed mouth quirk, which allows him to morph the flesh on his hand into a mouth, which can be shot out to attack. An unnamed vibration detection quirk, and it basically kind of like Toph's vibration sense. An unnamed glue quirk, and an unnamed hardening quirk, which allows him to harden his skin. He stole this quirk from a fighter in an underground masquerade, though. Okay, so This for me is kind of a stomp, because even if Delsin could in theory use all of his abilities at once, he's got 3 or 4 main abilities. He's got smoke manipulation, neon manipulation. I'm blanking on it. I just had them here. He's got what was the other one? Neon manipulation. What was the other one? Concrete manipulation, and there was another one that I forget. Even if he could, in theory, use all those at once, All for One is still going to completely video manipulation is going to completely thrash his ass. And this is just due to the fact that he's physically, he's just far more capable than, I have no idea what that was about, far more capable than this guy, because he was able to go toe-to-toe with a weakened All Might, who was still able to throw out literal bombs of punches, literally just level the city blocks with punches, no problem. Delsin doesn't have that level of physicality. He's got physical enhancements, but he's not a pseudo-Superman. I don't even know if he's more agile, though that one is at least debatable. I mean, then you get into any sort of counters. His smoke is easily countered by wind. His neon and his video, honestly, are just countered easily by firewall. He can just keep things at bay. Impact recoil is a big one. But the fact is, Delsin can't use his abilities all at once. All for One does, and continues to make new combinations. All for One is also much older and much more experienced on the battlefield than Delsin, and he can figure out Delsin's weakness with the search quirk. By the by, these are not. This is just the ones that he overall still has at this moment. There's also his former quirks, which include the power stockpiling quirk, which he gave to his brother, which he created One for All. The naval laser, which he actually gave to Yuga Oyama. Transforming arm quirk. Mole, which allows him to grow mole-like claws on his fingers. Overclock, which allows the user to stimulate the brain's perception of information, granting them enhanced speed, reflexes, and improvement to their healing factor. It was a stolen quirk he had. Muscle augmentation, air walking, which allows him to basically levitate midair. Unnamed self-destruct quirk, body bulk quirk, scale nail, and several other unnamed quirks. So, yeah, those are other quirks he had at one point, too. And those are all the ones we just know about. All for One would thrash Delsin very thoroughly, because even if Delsin can get hits in, this is a guy who's literally survived All Might twice. So, and there's no way in hell physically that Delsin can throw anything that would put down in his prime All Might, or weakened All Might. The All Might we get in the main series till he loses his main abilities, let alone in prime All Might. And yeah, All for One is definitely. All for One is just definitely a being that is not something this guy would be tailored to go with. If anything, if this were in either of their universes, and let's say this guy is let's say All for One is a conduit like Delsin, but has the ability to still conduits as well. He would basically, his All for One quirk is a conduit ability. He would still royally thrash Delsin based on everything else about it, based on the experience, all that, the fact that he can still use his abilities together, and then just be able to take his quirks no problem. Whereas Delsin probably would struggle very heavily against someone like him because he can't use his abilities in conjunction with each other. Even if he could, it would only be a mild. I think it would only be a mild bump it would give him. Someone like Midoriya is a little different, but we don't know, because you might be saying, well, Midoriya has all these quirks. Yeah, but Midoriya can use all of his quirks together if he needs to, first off. And then second off, we haven't seen Midoriya with access to all these quirks actually take on Shigaraki with all of his actual quirks. Because Shigaraki hasn't been able to use any of his quirks in this fight yet. So we actually don't know how Midoriya is going to fare in this fight when push comes to shove on this. Either way, I would definitely go All for One. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you again for the next one. Later.